In 1933, the average American family lived on $1,500 a year. That is about $35,000 today. But they ate better, wasted less, and kept households running on tricks that would put modern life hacks to shame. Number 18 on this list was considered so dangerous that appliance companies ran ads against it. It turns out it works better than the $400 gadget they sold you instead. And number 7, scientists at Cornell just confirmed, creates a preservation reaction that refrigeration literally cannot replicate. These 30 tricks kept families alive through the worst economic disaster in American history, and every single one of them still works today. Before we start, hit subscribe, because what your grandparents knew could save you hundreds this month alone. Let's count them down. Number 30. Newspaper insulation for windows. Before weather stripping showed up in hardware stores, your grandmother sealed drafty windows with wet newspaper. She soaked strips in flour paste, pressed them along the window frames, and let them dry hard as cement. A stack of yesterday's paper cost nothing. The paste was a tablespoon of flour mixed with water. In a time when coal cost $10 a ton and most families burned 2 tons a winter, every draft mattered. Come spring, she peeled the strips off and washed the frames. Modern weather stripping costs $8 a roll and lasts maybe 2 seasons. Newspaper and paste lasted all winter and was replaced for free. The Department of Energy has confirmed that sealing window gaps reduces heating costs by up to 20%. Your grandmother already knew that. Number 29, feed sack clothing. When flour and animal feed started coming in printed cotton sacks in the 1930s, mothers saw fabric, not trash. They collected sacks with matching patterns, soaked them to remove the brand labels, and sewed dresses, curtains, and quilts. By 1939, feed companies like Bemis caught on and started printing sacks with flowers, plaids, and even cartoon characters to attract buyers. A 100-pound sack yielded about a yard of fabric. 3 sacks made a child's dress. The cotton was sturdy, washed well, and softened with age. At the peak, American mills produced nearly 4 million feed sacks a year, designed specifically for reuse. The practice faded when cheap synthetics flooded the market. But during the Depression, a mother who could match 3 rose print sacks was giving her daughter something beautiful out of nothing. Number 28. Bacon grease jar. Every kitchen had that tin can or mason jar sitting beside the stove, filled with rendered bacon fat. Your grandmother strained every drop of grease through cheesecloth after breakfast and saved it. That fat went into everything: cornbread, fried potatoes, green beans, gravy, even pie crust. A pound of lard cost about 12 cents in 1935, and bacon grease was free. The flavor it added to vegetables was something butter could not match. Nutritionists demonized animal fats starting in the 1960s, and millions of grease jars got thrown out. But a study published in 2020 in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that replacing saturated fats with refined carbohydrates, which is exactly what happened, actually increased cardiovascular risk. Your grandmother cooked with bacon grease and walked 3 miles a day. She was fine. Number 27, vinegar as an all-purpose cleaner. Before Lysol and Windex crowded every cabinet, your grandmother cleaned the entire house with white vinegar and water, half and half in a spray bottle, or more likely, a rag dipped in a bowl. Countertops, windows, floors, even laundry. Vinegar cut grease, killed most household bacteria, and left glass streak-free. A gallon cost about 25 cents in 1934. 1 gallon lasted months. The acetic acid in vinegar has been shown to kill 99% of surface bacteria and 80% of mold species. That is not folklore. That is published research from the University of North Carolina. Your grandmother did not need a different product for every surface. She needed 1 bottle and a clean rag. Nobody threw away socks with holes. Your grandmother pushed a darning egg, a smooth wooden ball on a handle, inside the sock, stretched the hole flat, and wove new thread across the gap in a tight crosshatch pattern. A darning egg cost 10 cents. A skein of darning thread cost another nickel. One pair of wool socks cost 35 cents, almost a full day's wage for some workers during the worst years. So those socks got darned 5, 6, 10 times until there was more repair than original fabric. The weave was often tighter than the sock itself. Children learned to darn by age 8. It was not a hobby. It was survival. When coffee hit 30 cents a pound and money was tight, your grandmother mixed ground chicory root into the coffee tin. Half coffee, half chicory stretched the supply twice as far. The practice had been common in the South since the Civil War, but during the Depression, it spread nationwide. Chicory added a dark, slightly bitter, almost chocolatey flavor that many people actually grew to prefer. In New Orleans, chicory coffee became so popular it outlasted the hard times and remains a tradition today. A pound of dried chicory root cost about 8 cents. Mixed 50-50 with coffee, it cut the grocery bill without anyone at the breakfast table complaining. Number 24. Cardboard shoe soles. When shoes wore through and a new pair cost $3, money most families did not have, your grandmother cut cardboard insoles to cover the holes. She would trace the shoe on a piece of thick cardboard from a cereal box or a shipping carton, cut it to shape, and slip it inside. They were changed every few days, especially in wet weather. Some mothers layered newspaper under the cardboard for extra padding. It was not comfortable, it was not elegant, but it kept feet off the cold ground and made shoes last another season. Children walked to school on cardboard and came home on cardboard and never mentioned it because so did everyone else. Number 23. Potato water for bread. Your grandmother saved the starchy water from boiling potatoes and used it instead of plain water when making bread. The starch fed the yeast, producing a softer, fluffier loaf that stayed fresh a full day longer. A loaf of store-bought bread cost about 9 cents in 1933. Homemade bread cost about 3 cents. That 6-cent difference, multiplied across 52 weeks, mattered when the average family earned $25 a week. The potato water trick also gave the crust a golden color and a slightly sweet flavor that plain water could not. Baking scientists have since confirmed that the amylose in potato starch strengthens gluten networks, producing a more tender crumb. Your grandmother did not know the chemistry, she just knew her bread was better. Number 22. Regrowing vegetables from scraps. The bottom inch of a celery stalk, the root end of a green onion, the eyes of a potato. Your grandmother planted all of it. She set celery bases in a saucer of water on the windowsill until new leaves sprouted, then transferred them to the garden. Green onion roots went straight into the soil and produced new shoots within a week. Potato eyes were cut and planted in spring. One sprouted potato could yield 5 to 10 pounds of new potatoes by fall. Nothing that could grow again got thrown away. The kitchen windowsill was a nursery. The backyard was a grocery store. Victory gardens, which started during the war, had their roots in Depression-era scrap gardening that millions of families were already practicing. When a bar of soap wore down to a thin sliver, your grandmother did not throw it away. She collected those slivers in a jar, added a little water, heated them on the stove until they melted, and pressed the mixture into a mold or an old tin can to set. She could make one new bar from those scraps. A bar of ivory soap cost 5 cents in 1935. 5 cents was a loaf of bread, so every sliver mattered. Some women grated the scraps and mixed them with oatmeal or baking soda to make a scouring paste for pots. Nothing was too small to save. Here is where things get clever. Your grandmother knew something about cast iron that non-stick coating companies spent billions making you forget. She never washed her skillet with soap. She scraped it clean with a metal spatula while hot, wiped it with a rag, and rubbed a thin layer of lard across the surface. That fat polymerized with heat over time, creating a natural non-stick surface that got better with every use. Food scientists call this seasoning, and the chemistry is identical to industrial non-stick coatings without the synthetic chemicals. A Lodge cast iron skillet cost $1.50 in 1934 and lasted forever. We spend $40 every 2 years on Teflon pans that flake into our food after 18 months. The EPA has linked PFAS chemicals in non-stick coatings to kidney cancer and thyroid disease. Your grandmother's large seasoned iron had 0 chemicals and 0 expiration date. Number 19, flour and water paste for wallpaper. When walls needed covering and wallpaper paste cost money, your grandmother mixed flour and water into a thick paste. She cooked it until it thickened and used it to hang wallpaper, seal envelopes, and even bind homemade books. The paste dried clear, held strong for years, and cost nothing. Some families papered their walls with pages from the Sears catalog using flour paste alone. It sounds desperate, but the catalog pages added insulation and covered cracked plaster. 1 cup of flour made enough paste to paper a small room. Number 18, Haybox cooking. This is the one appliance companies tried to kill. Your grandmother would bring a stew or a pot of beans to a full boil on the stove, then immediately transfer the hot pot into a wooden box packed tight with hay, old blankets, or crumpled newspaper. The insulation held the heat, and the food continued cooking for hours without using another ounce of fuel. A pot of beans that normally took 4 hours on the stove cooked in 1 hour of heat and 3 hours in the hay box. Fuel was the second largest household expense during the Depression. A cord of wood cost $5 to $8, and coal cost $10 to $15 a ton. Cutting stove time in half cut fuel bills dramatically. The USDA actually promoted retained heat cooking during both world wars. Modern thermal cookers, which sell for $150 to $300, work on exactly the same principle. Your grandmother did it with a crate and some old quilts. Number 17, egg preservation in water glass. When hens laid heavily in spring and summer, your grandmother preserved dozens of eggs in sodium silicate, a liquid called water glass. She mixed 1 part water glass with 9 parts boiled, cooled water in a stoneware crock, then carefully lowered fresh unwashed eggs into the solution. The sodium silicate sealed the pores of the shell, preventing air and bacteria from entering. Eggs preserved this way lasted 6 to 9 months without refrigeration. A quart of water glass cost 15 cents and preserved roughly 15 dozen eggs. When winter came and the hens stopped laying, those preserved eggs went into cakes, custards, and breakfast skillets. The USDA Extension Service recommended this technique. It vanished overnight when electric refrigerators became affordable in the late 1940s. Number 16, bread pudding from stale bread. Stale bread was never trash. Your grandmother tore it into chunks, soaked it in eggs, milk, sugar, and vanilla, then baked it into bread pudding. A few cents worth of stale bread and pantry staples became dessert for the whole family. Some women added raisins, cinnamon, or a splash of leftover coffee. The custard soaked into every crumb, and the top baked golden and crispy. Served warm with a drizzle of sweetened condensed milk thinned with water, it made children forget they were poor. The smell alone, warm vanilla and cinnamon drifting through the kitchen, was worth more than the ingredients cost. Number 15, using the whole chicken, including the feet. Your grandmother bought a whole chicken for about 25 cents a pound and used every single part. The breast and thighs were Sunday dinner. The back, neck, and giblets went into gravy. The carcass was boiled for stock. The feet, cleaned and scalded, went into the pot too. Chicken feet are packed with collagen, producing a stock so rich it set into jelly when cooled. That gelatin-rich broth was the base for soups, sauces, and gravies all week. Modern bone broth sells for $7 to $12 a quart. Your grandmother made it from parts we now throw away. Your grandmother had a trick for keeping brown sugar soft that food scientists have only recently explained. She put a slice of bread or a piece of apple in the brown sugar container. The sugar stayed soft for weeks. Here is the science. Brown sugar hardens when molasses on the sugar crystals loses moisture to the air. The bread or apple slowly releases moisture, keeping the molasses film hydrated and the crystals loose. This is called moisture equilibrium. Companies now sell terracotta discs that do the exact same thing for $6 each. A slice of bread costs 4 cents. Number 14, patching clothes with flour sack fabric. Holes in trousers, elbows worn through on work shirts, knees blown out on children's overalls. Your grandmother patched them all with fabric cut from flour sacks, feed sacks, or worn-out clothing. She would cut a patch larger than the hole, pin it in place, and stitch it down with tight, even stitches. Children's clothes got patched so many times they became patchwork. Nobody was embarrassed. Patching was practical, expected, and a mark of a capable mother. A needle cost a penny. Thread cost a nickel. The patch was free. A new pair of overalls cost 79 cents. Most families could not afford new when patching still worked. Number 13, baking soda toothpaste. Commercial toothpaste cost 25 cents a tube. Baking soda cost 10 cents a box and lasted for months. Your grandmother dipped a wet toothbrush into a small dish of baking soda and brushed. Some families mixed the soda with a few drops of peppermint oil or a pinch of salt. The mild, abrasive cleaned teeth effectively, neutralized acid in the mouth, and left breath fresh. The American Dental Association has since confirmed that baking soda is effective at removing plaque and surface stains. Your grandmother's teeth were often better than ours, not because of the baking soda alone, but because she also ate almost no processed sugar. Number 12, the Depression-era meatloaf stretch. When ground beef cost 12 cents a pound, but a family had 6 mouths to feed, your grandmother stretched 1 pound into a loaf that served everyone. She mixed the beef with oatmeal, stale breadcrumbs soaked in milk, a chopped onion, and an egg. The fillers absorbed juices and swelled during cooking, nearly doubling the volume. It was topped with ketchup or tomato sauce and baked for an hour. The meatloaf came out firm enough to slice and flavorful enough that nobody noticed it was half bread. Some mothers added grated carrot or potato to push it further. Professional chefs today use this exact technique. They call it a pan-a-day and charge $28 a plate. Shampoo was a luxury most families skipped. Your grandmother washed her hair with bar soap and followed it with a rinse of lemon juice and water, about 2 tablespoons in a quart of warm water. The acid-cut soap residue left hair shiny and smelled clean without perfume. Lemons cost about 2 cents each. Some women used apple cider vinegar instead, which worked even better, but carried a sharper smell. Both solutions have a pH of 3 to 4, which smooths the hair cuticle and increases light reflection. Modern clarifying shampoo does the same thing for $12 a bottle. Number 10, tin can storage and tools. Empty tin cans became cups, planters, cookie cutters, candle holders, and storage containers. Your grandmother washed every can, removed the label, and found a second use. Large coffee cans held flour, sugar, and dried beans. Smaller cans became drinking cups or scoops for feed. Flattened cans patched holes in walls and roofs. One clever trick involved cutting both ends off a can and shaping it into a biscuit cutter. Nothing made of metal went to the dump. Today, we recycle aluminum for environmental reasons. Your grandmother reused it because buying a new container was unthinkable. Number 9, cold water laundry with Louis soap. Your grandmother made her own laundry soap from elway and rendered animal fat, producing enough soap for months. She shaved the hard bars into flakes and dissolved them in cold water, using a washboard. Hot water was expensive because heating it required fuel. Cold water worked fine because the high alkalinity of the soap broke down grease and dirt without heat. Clothes were scrubbed, wrung by hand, and hung on the line. A batch of homemade soap cost 15 cents. Commercial laundry soap cost 25 cents a box. The savings added up fast for a family doing laundry for 6. Here is a trick that sounds like it should not work, but it has been validated by science. Your grandmother planted marigolds around the border of her vegetable garden and between tomato rows. She said they kept the bugs away. For decades, people called that an old wives' tale. Then, researchers at Newcastle University confirmed that marigolds release alpha-terthional into the soil, repelling root knot nematodes, whiteflies, and aphids. Your grandmother was practicing integrated pest management 60 years before the term existed. A packet of marigold seeds cost a nickel, chemical pesticide costs $15 and poisons the soil. Number 8. Eggshells in the garden. Crushed eggshells went around the base of tomato plants to prevent blossom end rot, which is caused by calcium deficiency. Your grandmother crushed them fine and worked them into the soil at planting time. The calcium carbonate in the shells slowly dissolved, feeding the roots exactly what they needed. She also scattered crushed shells around lettuce and cabbage to deter slugs. The jagged edges cut the soft bodies of slugs and snails, creating a physical barrier. A dozen eggs produced enough shells for several plants, and since eggs were already in the diet, the shells were free. Garden lime does the same job and costs $5 a bag. Number 7. Salt curing and smoking meat. Before refrigerators were common, your grandmother preserved pork with salt, sugar, and smoke. Hams and bacon sides were rubbed with a curing mixture of salt, brown sugar, and saltpeter, then hung in the smokehouse for weeks. The salt drew moisture from the meat, creating an environment too hostile for bacteria. The smoke deposited antimicrobial compounds onto the surface. Meat cured this way lasted through winter without refrigeration. A 50-pound bag of salt cost about 50 cents. The smokehouse was a small shed with a dirt floor and a fire pit. This is not quaint tradition, it is applied science. The combination of salt, nitrates, and phenolic compounds from wood smoke creates a preservation system that food scientists say refrigeration cannot replicate in terms of flavor and texture. Number 6. Making do with one-pot meals. Depression-era cooking meant one pot on the stove, not 4. Your grandmother built entire meals in a single cast-iron Dutch oven. Beans and ham hock, chicken and dumplings, vegetable soup stretched with barley. One pot meant one fire, one cleanup, and less fuel burned. The slow simmer combined flavors in ways quick cooking cannot achieve. Collagen dissolved into the broth. Starches thickened the liquid naturally. These meals cost pennies, but were nutritionally complete. The modern slow cooker is a direct descendant of your grandmother's one-pot philosophy. Number 5. Quilting from scraps. Nothing was bought for a quilt. Every piece came from worn-out clothing, old curtains, flour sacks, and fabric too small for anything else. Your grandmother sorted scraps by color, cut them into squares or triangles, and pieced them together by hand or on a treadle sewing machine. A quilt took weeks and lasted decades. The batting inside was often cotton from old mattresses or clean rags layered flat. Quilting bees brought neighbors together, turning labor into community. A store-bought blanket cost $2 to $5. A homemade quilt cost nothing but time and kept families warm through winters with no central heat and no money for alternatives. Number 4. Dandelion greens as a free salad. Your grandmother picked dandelion greens from the yard in early spring before the plants flowered and turned bitter. She washed them and tossed them with hot bacon fat dressing, vinegar, and a chopped hard-boiled egg. This was wilted salad, the first fresh greens after months of root vegetables and canned goods. Dandelion greens contain more vitamin A than carrots and more calcium than milk, ounce for ounce. The USDA lists them as one of the most nutrient-dense greens available. Your grandmother foraged them free from the lawn. Today we buy them at farmers markets for $4 a bunch and call it a superfood. Your grandmother kept a small jar of white vinegar near the stove for burns. The moment someone touched a hot pan or splashed grease, she dabbed vinegar on the spot. The acetic acid reduced the sting and helped prevent blistering on minor burns. For decades, modern medicine dismissed this as folk nonsense. Then, a 2014 study in the Annals of Burns and Fire Disasters found that dilute acetic acid has genuine anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties on superficial burns. Your grandmother did not need a peer-reviewed journal. She needed the burn to stop hurting so she could finish dinner. Number 3. Ash and grease for soap. When even store-bought lye was too expensive, your grandmother made soap from scratch. She saved hardwood ash in a barrel, poured water through it to create lye water, then combined that lye with rendered animal fat and cooked it in a kettle outdoors. The chemical reaction, saponification, turned grease and ash water into usable soap. The process took a full day and produced enough bars for months. The soap was harsh by modern standards, but it cleaned everything: clothes, bodies, dishes, floors. This was chemistry, performed in the backyard by women who never took a science class. The process is identical to what artisan soap makers charge $8 a bar for today. Number 2, canning everything in sight. When the garden produced more than the family could eat, your grandmother canned it. Tomatoes, green beans, peaches, applesauce, pickles, jams, and jellies lined the cellar shelves in glass mason jars. A pressure canner cost about $5 and lasted a lifetime. Jars were reused year after year. By September, a good canner had 200 to 400 jars stored, enough food to carry the family through winter. The National Center for Home Food Preservation still uses pressure canning guidelines developed during this era. Your grandmother did not have a chest freezer. She had a pressure canner, a hot kitchen in August, and the knowledge that winter would not wait. Number 1, the envelope budget system. This is the trick that kept everything else on this list possible. Your grandmother divided the household cash into labeled envelopes at the start of each week: rent, food, fuel, medicine, church. When an envelope was empty, spending stopped. No exceptions. No borrowing from the rent envelope to buy shoes. No credit. No debt. This system forced the kind of discipline that modern budgeting apps try to replicate with notifications and charts. But watching an envelope thin out taught restraint no app can match. Financial advisors today recommend the envelope method to clients drowning in credit card debt. Dave Ramsey built an empire teaching it. Your grandmother was doing it in 1933 with a pencil, 6 envelopes, and a kitchen drawer. Here is my challenge. Pick one of these this week, just one. The bacon grease jar, the Haybox, the cast iron seasoning, the envelope budget. Try it. Then come back and tell me your grandmother was wrong. I already know what you are going to say. I tried them and I cannot go back. My kitchen has a grease jar now. I darned a pair of wool socks last Sunday, and they are more comfortable than anything I have bought in years. Share which one you are going to try in the comments, because these were not just survival tricks. They were a way of life that consumer culture spent 80 years teaching us to forget. Your grandparents knew. Now you know too.